Sorry about that.
It's okay. Get that out of the way. Did you find out about that?
Now, can I have everybody over here? I want to see everybody.
Did you find out about the builder packet?
How's that? How's that look?
It's chopping your head a little bit.
Just chopping my head?
Touch your forehead. There we go.
Garcia? We gotta get that purchase contract back from the builder.
Did you get a builder packet?
All right, guys. How's everyone doing? Josh, can you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is you close approved?
It's not that, it's new construction.
Oh, okay,
No, I just want to go over a couple of things with you guys that are real important. And as we, sometimes, when we get really busy, we forget, just key things. And one of the things that I've noticed, like with myself, if I'm not constantly trained on something, if I haven't done it for years and years and years, like for instance, learning how to close or learning how to sell, then you get weak at it, just like lifting weights. If you're not constantly using it all the time, so now that you guys have access to Cardone University, even Prisciliano or Tyron, you guys need to be listening to that. Listen to that too. I think it's really important, and so that you're constantly engaging and enhancing your skill set, and so that brings me to talk about. I mentioned a little bit earlier this morning when I was talking with Jason. Does everybody know about Michael Jordan? Does everyone know? Everyone knows who he is, right? Does everyone know what his strongest trait was?
Yes.
And don't say it because I already said it this morning. So,
I know it.
does everyone know what Michael Jordan's strongest trait was? What was Michael Jordan's strongest attribute? Huh?
He
ethic?
listens to his coach and applies it on the court.
He had a will to win. That was probably unmatched.
What was?
Listener.
Listener.
Yeah, because you heard it. So,
Right.
Michael Jordan's strongest work ethic posted when his coaches were polled said that Michael Jordan was the best listener and implementer. The best listener and implementer.
He's college and high school.
Okay?
Because he got
He listened to his coach and implemented immediately. That was his best attribute. All his coaches told him when they interviewed, said, "Tell me about Michael Jordan. What was the most powerful thing, strongest thing about Michael Jordan?" Now think about that. The best basketball player in the world listened. Sam Walton's wife said that Sam Walton spent more time in his competitors' stores than in Walmart. Why? He's spent more time in the competitor store than his own business. Why?
Improve it.
He knew his store. So
He knew his store.
Mhm.
But he wanted to see what was going on over there. Humility, humble. You live in humble.
We're working on both.
I have it. It was an oil company a long time ago.
I'm just telling you guys, you see, the thing is that what I'm telling you is that we have a system that works here, and you have to follow the system. Listen to what the system is. You want to fight and buck the system, then you're going to get whiplash. You're not going to be successful. You have to listen. See, that's why you're given 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen, right? This is a very powerful thing. You think about the most successful people, J.W. Marriott. You go and interview any of these people, they listened. They had mentors. They listened to the mentor, what the mentor told them to do. Whoever's the best, you have to listen. That's why I say listen to Grant Cardone. Listen to if Josh is telling you something. If Josh is telling you something, if I'm telling you something about a mortgage, if I'm telling you go call this person, then you need to listen to it. There's a reason why. And if you're not listening and you're not implementing, then it doesn't matter. You're not going to realize those results. And so there's a story in the Bible. I'm sure you guys I know a lot of you guys are really religious here, and it talks about the no, it's true. It's the father that asked the 2 sons to do something. Right? The one son, he asked him to do it. He says, "Sure, Dad, I'll go and do it," but he never does it. And then the other son, he says, "No, Dad, I'm not going to do it," but he does it. Who obeyed?
The one who did it.
the one who did it. So you can't have the kingdom unless you have humility. You'll never get the kingdom. If you don't listen and follow whoever's the top and follow them, then you're never going to reach the Olympia. So this is a huge thing, and it shows, it's prevalent in the office that people that are following the system, it reflects in their paycheck, it reflects in their income. They follow the system. They listen. You know, and just look around the people that are making money and doing well, they listen. People that have a big ego and they think they don't need to listen, or they don't need to follow, they don't need to send out a selfie, don't need to do bomb, they don't need to do this, don't need to do that, they're going to pay the price. They don't need to network, they don't need to call their leads, they don't need to follow up, they don't need to submit good loans, they can just throw it in, they don't need to check their contracts when they send out docs, their LOA is going to do it. You know, it's all going to come back on you if you're not following the system. You know, so it's very, very important that if you want to get to the next level with your career, that we all do this. That's what you said it many times, Joe, that what does Angelo do? He takes anyone's information, doesn't care who it came from, as long as it seems optimal to him, he implements it. Right? I don't care where the information came from. It came from you, the cat. If my brain likes it, I'm doing it. I'm not better than anyone. I'll listen to anyone. You know, if it makes sense to me, then we're going to do it. So, but no one should sit above anybody. If it's the right information, then then you want to implement it right away. But you think about that for a second. Why Michael Jordan was the best? Because he was coachable. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. Why do you think B's not here anymore? He won't let anyone coach him. He refused to be coached. I mean, you can analyze it and see what happens in life.
Just want to comment on that because it's kind of funny, but I remember the other day it was in my office, and he came in my office and I wanted to shadow, we gave him a shadow for a little bit. Kind of see what you do, why you're doing well. And the whole time he was there, he was just redirecting Danny, like, oh, you should be doing it like this, or you should do the call like this. And Danny was getting a little frustrated. He's like, man, come on.
Yeah, I'm doing my pitch, and he kept chiming in like, no, man, you shouldn't say that. You should say it like this. And I'm like, dude, go close some loans first, man. Then come talk to me. Like,
It was funny, but that's the mentality of the person. You know, you come and shadow someone instead of shadowing and listening. He was putting himself on that person. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
You know.
That's Jason's brand.
Well, and that goes to my second piece of this, and then I know Mark wants to talk about something, and we always need to check our conviction, our beliefs, right, about the company, about us, about our products. You know, to the degree of your conviction is going to determine how well you do, right? On the phone when you're talking with a customer, whoever's the most convincing wins. If the customer's more who's selling who on the call? If the customer's more convincing than you, then they're going to win. Yesterday we had a guy tell us that another lender was 0.25% lower, and I think that this is with one of Casey's customers saying that, hey, our fees are too high. Okay, but that's just one part of it. But there's so many other things. That's where you need your level of conviction needs to be so high about what you're selling that you just brush that right off. Of course the fees are higher. We're a bank. We service your loan. Do you want your loan with Johnny's House and Mortgages? You want it sold all over the country, or do you want to stay in house? You're whoever's the most convincing in that call. Oh, my financial advisor said your fees are too high. But you have to know when you have belief and you have confidence in what you're doing, how to respond to that. It's not just about rate, guys. Why do we spend $500 for the Ritz and we spend $50 for La Quinta? Why do you spend $70 at Ruth Chris and $10 at Jack in the Box, right? How are those people in business? You know, there's a difference, and your conviction has to be so high. Like, see, when I'm talking, I'm not stuttering, I'm not, hiding. I'm believing in what I'm saying, and so you're believing me because I believe in myself and what I'm saying, and that's how it has to be when you project that to your customer, that you believe in it, and that you're convinced. If you're not convinced, like, how are they going to be convinced, right? And I mean, it's you have to really have that in your mind, that belief, that conviction. So when those questions come up about rate or fee, because they're always going to come up, how to respond to it. Okay, is it just about the rate to you, or are there other things? You might get that 4%, but you don't get me. I'm not coming with that loan.
Most of the time, somebody, if our fees are high, their rate's gonna be higher. If our fees, if our rate is high, then they're giving them a quote that's not reasonable, and they're not gonna be able to back it up. If they're questioning you about fees, you can just really, it's easy to say, well, if you're not paying them, then why do you care? You're not gonna pay them. We're gonna take care of half of that, but we have to put it there. It has to be stated, because we're not gonna lie to you like these other people are. When you get that closing disclosure, you're gonna see what's really going on, and then you're gonna remember back to this conversation. It's gonna be too late.
Yeah, we don't sell fees, man. We don't sell rates.
Well, it's rate, fee, and cash to close. Those are the three main ones anyway, and all three of them apply almost equal.
I think if I find myself in a conversation with a buyer and I'm competing and my whole focus is my rates I'm giving you, then I believe at some point, this is me personally, I believe at some point I didn't connect properly with that person, because people buy based on their perceived value, and they're not gonna even care what the rate was when they get into the house they're looking for. So I just try to keep the main thing, keeping them focused on what this home is going to do, what they're gonna do when they get in the home. And now the vehicle is this loan that we're giving. That's why it doesn't matter if it's USDA at the end of the day, or if it's FHA, or if the rate is 4.5 or 3.8. Bottom line is it's one that our underwriters believe that you can pay without, higher risk of you not having enough, money to pay it. You have enough to pay it, enough disposable income. So now let's just focus on the main thing, which is getting into this house. And I think people, they'll go fishing for a reason not to do the loan, but if that becomes the bottom line, I think it's something we might have missed in building that rapport.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, though. I mean, you're talking about service levels, expertise. It costs money to be able to be a loan servicer and a lender, and I mean, because of that, if our rate is slightly higher, most of the time it's not, but because we are a bank, we have normally lower rates. But even if there's always going to be someone out there that's lower, right?
Or saying they're lower.
Or saying that they're lower, and so, but you're going to have to know how to respond to that. I mean, you think about these companies that they they justify their premiums because of the level of service and the things that they offer, and it's just like what we here. I mean, if we're offering 24/7 service, we're offering to give our life to the customer on the drop of a dime if they contact us. That commands a premium. So let me ask you a question, Prisciliano. Why do you think somebody should go into debt to get a home? Can you answer that? Why should someone go into debt to do business with us? How can they justify going into debt?
Well, it's a long-term commitment. It's something that's going to provide a shelter for not just themselves, but also for their family, or future family. I don't know what
Well, you need training. You need training. You need to know how to talk. So see, Tyron, why should a customer buy from us now as opposed to waiting? Why?
Rates could change. Rates can change from now to next year.
And what does that mean?
They could possibly spend more money out
Okay.
next
Not
year.
even qualified.
Not even qualified.
Why wait? You're gonna do it anyway.
Okay.
A lot of these people that we closed at 3.5, if it was 4.5,
Yeah.
even 5, when they got the house.
Well, okay. So let me ask you this, Casey. Why should somebody go with us if another company has a lower interest rate? Why should someone go with us?
But we'll service the loan for the life of the loan. It'll never get sold. We can offer them service 7 days a week, 24 hours a day almost. So.
Okay.
We stick with them. We stick by their side.
And look at, I mean, basically, you are always on the phone with your customers.
Yeah.
Right? You're totally
Always.
accessible.
Yeah.
Whether it's 12 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock in the morning, I always see you doing something with your texting
Yeah.
your client.
Always.
And I was just in an experience with a lender doing something. He said, I don't work on the weekend, don't contact me. And
I love having those conversations at 8 o'clock at night on Saturday, and somebody's questioning me about this. So, look, we're talking now. You gonna be able to talk to the other guy right now? I doubt it. There's no way you won't reach him until Monday morning, maybe 8
You
o'clock.
can put me on hold right now and call your other banker and see if he picks up.
Yeah.
What's funny is I got a client, a realtor that was working one of my deals, and before I called her, she had another client that was already under contract with Quicken. She said every time she called Quicken to get help to talk to the original loan officer, well, I work on that team, I can help you. And every time it was always a new person, but the fact that she could never get to the person that originated the thing from the beginning. She said it just frustrated her the most, and the fact that she said, Jason, she had texted me like at 8 o'clock and I asked her advice, and I was able to help her. She was like, Jason, I just wish that all my clients could have got to you before anybody else, because you're always available.
You see, and this is the thing, that your level of training and like rehearsing when because this is going to come up as hopefully you get more developed in your career. People are going to ask you questions. You're going to know how to respond to them. And if you're not constantly trained and drilled when these type of things come up, and you're not convincing, then the other party's more convincing, then you'll lose the deal, right? I mean, you guys heard me a little bit yesterday on the speakerphone talking to this person, and obviously I was more convincing on the call. That's why he's going with us, And so, whoever is the more convincing side in the end, because what's happened is that you see it's two brains going at it, right? Two communications, and whoever's it's constantly back and forth. Then someone picks it and then flips it, and then boom, you win, right? You pick the lock in his mind, and then he's ready to go. Because you said something to him, he said, "Oh, well, you're here in Houston." I put a negative in his mind. The other company is in Tennessee, but see, you heard what he said. He responds to me. He says, "But that's okay. I've done business before online. They take care of me." He's not telling that to me. He's telling it to himself. Mm-hmm. Because right after that, what did he say? "But I like it that you're here." Mm-hmm. You see, he has to convince himself now that that they're in Tennessee, and he's right down the street. So you see, you understand how what's happening in the brain. I'm putting doubt that the other lender's not going to be able to help him because they're 1,000 miles away, right? And they're a broker, we're a bank.
That's always the main thing. Because when I started with Angela, we were a broker, and I can tell y'all right now, it is night and day. For somebody to have to juggle 12 or 13 different sets of guidelines or matrix, and the buyer, trying to not let the buyer know that they really have no clue who they're going to get them set up with.
Yeah. So it's these are just really important things. Really amp the bottom line here is you have to really amp your level of belief and conviction in you, the products, the company, and rehearse on that. And watch. That's what I said every morning. Before you come in here, 30 minutes of training. Whatever it is, to get your mind ready in the right state. So when you're talking to these people, you're saying the right things to them, man.
But product knowledge, y'all, is facts and education. If you can give people facts and be educating them throughout your pre-qualification, you're telling them, you're asking these questions, but you're telling them why you're asking them, and you explaining, and you listen to what they're saying for indecision and questions, whether they're asking you a question or whether just their tone is questioning or whatever. And you're educating these people, and I've had more people say, "Mark, nobody ever explained to me like that," and that's when you got them. Nobody ever took the time. Everybody just gives me a bunch of non-answers, and that's what I pride myself on. Is I made sure I studied everything, and I'm giving people these facts, just fact, not a bunch of fluff that they have to kind of guess whether what's really going on.
Yeah. So anyway, those are the main things I want to talk about. I hope there's some good takeaways there. Again, everybody needs to increase their level of listening to get better. No one's too good not to listen, and listen to the mentors that hear about mortgages. Like I said, Josh and I, you know, putting this much experience generating, you know, the last 10 years, over $100 million in revenue, that has something to be said. You should listen to those people when they're telling you something. You know, you should probably listen to them. Now, how to change a diaper, I don't know how to do that. So, but, you know, if about doing a loan or selling or how to work or the proper work ethic, I do know about that. Or how to package a loan or what's needed for documentation, you know, and how to get a loan closed, you know, Josh knows about that. So you need to really know, but nobody's, you know, in this office is gonna be a better source than that to talk to. You know, but then that's just one side. The other part is the implementation. You know, how to market yourself and promote yourself, to go out there. That's a whole other piece that you can't, you know, all these gifts are given to you and you have to use them. You know, really, it's unprecedented what you guys have in front of you. I mean, you know, so I got a call from David today. He said, "Man, Danny's doing $1 million a month." He said, "I can't believe that, man. I need to call more leads." You know,
What's the challenge?
you know, so, but it just shows you that how the system works. But you just have to follow it. You just have to listen and implement and follow. That's it. You know, and you can do $2 million a month. I mean, it can be bigger and bigger and bigger. So, you know, but you have to follow it, man. You have a good oil machine here, man. And so you have a lot of people that are trying to help you to make it happen. So, all right, Mark, I know you wanted to add some stuff about a couple things that you wanted, you know, to.
Just
You stand up over here, so. thank
so
you.
I'm not on camera, am I?
Yeah.
Am I really? Okay. Well, I've been, and there'll be more. I mean, this is the third week. Yeah, the third week I've been here, and I've learned more. I hope I've learned more than what I've given to y'all. I think I have anyway. And the main thing I learned is it's kind of like a reformed whatever. Back in the day, Josh, now I understand why, but there was a heavy frustration when I would turn in a loan. I could feel the tension with Saeed, with Angelina, with John. You remember? So I was like, nobody wanted, you know, it was like, I felt like people were reluctant, and I'm over here, I thought I had a really good loan. And finally it came a time where I realized, and it was for different reasons, but I finally, the light just clicked on and said, you know what, if I'm gonna be fielding questions from borrowers after I send out disclosures, I probably need to know the right answers and not the answers that I'm giving and losing these loans. When you lose $500,000 in one day, that's a hard one. That's a hard thing to swallow, and it happened to me multiple times. And so I finally just said stop. And I'm not asking anybody to do that because he won't let you, but I finally just said stop, and I learned it. And I would, you know, the kind of the theme around here is be obsessed or
Be broke.
be broke. I've been trying to think of a way to apply that into, you know, I always go with least common denominator. So I try to find a way to apply that, be obsessed or be broke. And where would that start with us, me as a loan officer, fellow loan officer? And I would say be obsessed with the detail when you're talking to the borrower, and be obsessed with that contract when it comes in, because you have the chance to make or break the loan by making sure that borrower, number one, didn't get screwed, that everything that he thinks was on there, seller credit. Well, I got $5,000. Well, you look on there and it says 2. But if you didn't catch it, it's gone. I mean, it's going to take a lot of trouble to reverse that. So being obsessed with who pays transfer tax on a big house, $3,300. And if you don't catch it, looks like that borrower's got an extra $33 coming out of their pocket, and their realtors in their ear saying that loan officer don't know what he's doing when the disclosures go out, and you got no control over that. You don't know, the conversation happens, and then finally on the 5th day after you send out disclosures, you finally get a hold of somebody, and they're already gone with their lender because one little thing that you didn't pay attention to detail. So
You guys know what he's talking about here?
I'm talking about the contract. When y'all get a contract, I mean, I would just say this is where I would want your starting place to be. When you get the contract, just go over it. Go over it and then go to the 2015 and and I'm gonna be looking at it, or Josh is gonna be looking at it. So I really don't care if you mess up or not. I would just love to see something there. And then I will go to you and say, look, I see why you did that. I see why you thought that. But this is the reason why, and I'll show you on the contract, and you can start applying it little by little by little. I'd like to think that maybe the best thing I would leave y'all with after however much time I spend with you is gonna be being able to kind of fill in a lot of the fine details that these two were given. And that would be where I would want to start after, that's what I say on week number 3 is for y'all when you get a contract, pay attention to every little detail. And then transfer all that you can, and then I'll help you with the rest.
Yeah, I mean, basically on a contract, it's very important whether you're a LOA or loan officer, you definitely need to be checking the concessions, close date, any provisions.
Close date especially nowadays.
Transfer taxes,
Owner's title
any
policy.
Owner's title policy, these are key things that always need to be checked regardless of what the verbal. We had a deal last night with Nick, I don't know how this is even possible, but the buyer is a realtor, and they thought that they were getting concessions for closing, and sent us a contract with no concessions, and then said that the seller's agent told them to put 0 in there, and thought they were getting concessions. And
So is what I'm talking about, y'all.
no, but the buyer's a realtor, and I was like, how is this even possible? And and it's like, I had a call with them, and I was like, you don't know that we need to, okay, where you're at, you're gonna have to bring money to closing for the closing costs, because it says 0 there. She's like, well, the seller's agent told me to put it in there.
And sign it,
But
just sign it.
just sign it, but then she said, then we're supposed to get 6,000 or 7,000 for closing. And so, I mean, then they send this to us, and then, so all along, if you're thinking, oh, they have 7,000 for closing, but no one read that on number 12, that it's 0, when the closer goes to see that, or the underwriter, and they're gonna look, man, you have no concessions, it's too late to change it now. And it's passed through the loan officer, it's passed through the LOA,
Yeah,
and
I've seen
it's-
it go really, really far.
yeah, and now you have a bomb.
Casey
Yeah.
had one yesterday. It's a friend of yours. I went through the whole contract, got down to the very end, and there's a little bitty spot somewhere down towards after the signatures.
Yeah.
Administrative fee to Keller Williams paid by buyer,
By buyer.
and it was his friend.
$495.
$495 administration fee. Then I added it in there. I had to.
He said everyone does it. I'm like, I've never seen it.
I had to add it in there. Who the hell knows?
It's always been collecting the money.
Yeah.
Who's the realtor?
How they collect over the 3%.
Who's the realtor?
Yeah, it's a
I didn't know
realtor
that was
did it,
legal
but
to do that.
but
Maybe it's compensated
but my
for.
broker,
Yeah, they
it's
can do
my
that.
broker in
It's
West
not
Palm Beach,
customary.
my friend of
It's
mine.
not Tim.
John, no, it's not Tim. John Diaz, but it's a great guy.
I think the
Just-
point is that, part of the contract, like what Mark's talking about, isn't necessarily that the point is really that, it's that you're doing the task of the contract. That's not really what's important. What is important is identifying how to structure the deal to get the contract the way you want it.
Or to
Before
get it to the
contract
next
even
step.
written. That's the mindset you need to have, so that way when the contract comes in, you're like, oh no, this is your cash flow is gonna be 8, now they have $1,000 less in concessions, now we're gonna have a problem. Now I need to go look at the price, you need to up the rate a little bit. But you knowing how to identify those things, and the only way you're gonna be able to know how to identify that is by knowing how to price an estimate, or prepare an itemization. Who's paying for what in each state, what kind of rate credit are you gonna get? How many months are you gonna hold in taxes in New York? Because you're holding 2, and you think the guy's only gonna be bringing their 3.5% down, you're way off. Because you're gonna be holding like 12 months, and the taxes over there are freaking high. So 12 months at $500-600 a month, as opposed to 2 months, is thousands of dollars. You might have misquoted that person.
They'll
So
find
when
out
you're-
later.
When you're talking to the realtor, you might be thinking one thing, but it's important for you to be able to clearly define, right, in your mind, and through the itemization, how to be able to structure a contract. Because you're the one that ultimately is the one that can get that contract structured the way you need it to make that deal work.
You
And
won't,
if the
you
contract
won't know
comes in
unless you
and
move everything
structured
over.
incorrectly, the odds of that deal falling apart because they don't have the money, you could lose the deal right there. You have to go back and get it restructured, realtor takes it to another lender because they think you don't know what you're doing. You have all these other things that play, so it's important that you and the realtor are on the same page ahead of time about how this contract needs to be structured and why. You know, the borrower needs X amount of concessions because they only wanna bring X amount to close because they don't wanna pay all the school taxes, and we know this is New York, and there's transfer taxes, and they don't wanna do all that. You know, they don't have the money to do it, that's why we need more. Right? Because right now, you guys are throwing out numbers off the top of your head, off of a little matrix that we made. Here's a general guide, or rule of thumb, for what you're gonna need, that's what you're doing. But you don't know why. Right, Priscilliano? You wanna sleep?
Well, he kind of does now. I mean, I've gone over it twice with him now. But the LOs are the ones that are getting the questions. And
Yeah, and we talked about this yesterday, and I thought about it as well.
well, I mean, it's everybody's inspired me, but
No.
you're part of it.
No, of course. I mean, I'm one of the loan officers, so I'm sure everybody is dealing with the same thing. But I'm saying that it made me think about it because typically, I mean, I know New York and I know some other states that have sort of funky, very high property taxes, and I know Michigan because that's where I'm from. But oftentimes, I let what floods over into Encompass sort of like lead that, and then just let them know it's just estimates. But I think at a certain point when I go and scrub that 1003, we have to not just put what the property taxes are showing over in that state, but we also have to do the itemization that you talked about because,
And then whatever credit
it
you
can
can
make
dig.
whatever credit you can give, and you were saying putting them on the seller side and the buyer side. I'm thinking like, I hadn't even thought about doing that.
Right.
Because at that point, I'm thinking everything is all estimates, and that's gonna be reconciled down the road, but I can see how that could be a major problem with the,
How many of
cash
y'all?
flows.
How many of y'all had a loan estimate come to you from a borrower from another lender? Did that ever happen?
I've seen one.
Okay. The first thing I do when that happens is I look at it and I discredit the lender right away because they don't know what the hell they're doing. They got everything goofed up. Nothing matches. Nothing's in the right place. The fees, transfer tax, you're not paying that. They put down here a rate of 3.25%. That's a rate for a 15-year at best. It's a rate for a 15. You can just tear it to shreds. And that's what I would fear that they're going to do if we start sending out loan estimates with the product knowledge that we have. That's what I would be fearful of.
Has anyone lost a deal from a loan package being sent out?
I haven't, but I can tell you this. I had a guy, Barnes, I don't know if you remember the name Barnes.
No.
Works for Guardian Mortgage.
Okay.
Remember that guy? Well, I sent out a loan estimate and haven't spoken with him since. I haven't lost it through the disclosures, but when he asked for a loan estimate,
I hate to do it because I say it's not fair.
I hadn't heard from Barnes since,
Okay.
and that might very well be the case.
From under contract.
They did? Why?
There was something wrong on it, and they just felt super nervous. I think the price didn't match the contract or something like that. Because they set it off.
The sales price?
Yeah.
That's key right there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some things. I mean, I've built these manuals, and I don't know if y'all want me giving them out or not, but
I think able to send them out.
yeah, but they probably didn't know what they were or what to do with them. I wouldn't have known either if I looked at my work. I mean, you kind of need to have a little bit of understanding what it is that you're looking at. But it's field by field, starting with the BOE application all the way to disclosure. So you can just do. I would never recommend everybody just jumping all into them and doing the whole thing, but just start at the top, get it to where you're comfortable with that. Start the next part, and the next part. And having somebody coming behind you and checking, and that kind of trial and error is gonna little by little do it at your own pace. Don't let it get in the way of production, but do it at your own pace with the guidance that you have around you. There's no reason why I'm gonna go out on a limb and say there's no reason why the loan officers would not be training their assistants. That's the way it really should be. When it comes down to it, that's the way it really should be. But right now, the assistants know more about the nuts and bolts of these loans than y'all do. But the assistants are not the ones fielding the calls. And that's where why I asked him if I could stay all this, because I want y'all to be prepared. He just went away. I could tell some jokes or.
What was that?
I think it's important to know how to do for as loan officer, because you guys deal with the estimate. I think it's important to know how to do it, because the things that make it.
I have Syed coming up here. He's can just show you something real quick on bank statements. I think it's an area that we're having a challenge on. And when we're doing cash to close, the proper way to for the bank statements was needed.
That goes
So-
right with this too, because how do you know your cash to close if you didn't move everything that can be moved to seller?
Okay.
Like on the one that I was looking at, two that I looked at yesterday, it's like $6,000.
Example is, like, I got a loan we have a loan from Sean, and the borrower's cash to close is about $5,500. The borrower's got, in the most recent bank statement, has about $2,500. And I know the loan officer, probably just, as soon as we told him what the cash to close was, he probably just learned that himself. He probably had no clue. So does the borrower have a clue what the cash to close is? No. Does the loan officer? No. Probably told him 3.5%. But now we have to figure out how to come up with another $3,000 from someone that makes about $2,000 a month. And that's gonna be hard. So anyway, I mean, that's the kind of thing you could run into, is you don't want the cash to close to become a shocker to you and to your borrower. So it's important for you to know how to estimate it, so you're in the ballpark, right? And your borrower and you're on the same page, and those expectations are what they get, because it's when those expectations are met, that's when your deals go somewhere else. That's when they think that you're screwing them over. You know what I'm saying?
Mark had one last night. I looked at the disclosures, and he looked at it. He said, "But I just don't understand. The cash to close looks a little bit high." So I looked at it a little longer. Seller credit for taxes, and then it went from what 1,400 down to 600, and then so something just didn't feel right, and so we just have to look a little longer. But he wasn't going to send them out until it felt right. And that's one of those things you can just after a while you'll be able to look at it and tell something's not right, something's missing. And sure enough, it was the tax proration. Taxes were paid in June, or May or June, something like that. So we were able to give a 6-month credit, 7-month credit, and fixed it.
The way the estimate works, you don't have to move the camera.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave it up here. I don't wanna be the
The
cameraman.
way the estimate works is actually very easy to use, plug and play. So it's basic, everything's already templated. All you have to do is import the title fees. So you need to know the zip code for the area they're gonna buy in. The title fees all get imported, and then you just have to plug in what are my due dates for taxes, how much are my taxes and insurance, who's paying what, and I'm done. So it's not a matter of like, how do I determine all these fees? It's really a matter of knowing what the due date is for taxes are. Insurance due dates are always gonna be the same. So you have to know the due date of taxes. Title fees you don't need to know. Transfer tax you don't need to know, because it's all automatically imported, but we do need to know who's paying. Maybe the seller's paying the transfer tax, maybe the seller's paying for owner title policy. So you need to, or then maybe there's a tax credit. So you need to know those things, right? There's only a few things that you need to know. It looks more intimidating than it really is.
But it's thousands of dollars. Right.
Yeah, because you're dealing with big sums of money, but I'm saying there's just a few things, a few key components. The rest is just nothing. It's a template.
But if the realtor knows that your cash to close should be about 7,000 to 8,000, and we just closed 14 because we didn't move the transfer in the owner's title,
Yeah, then you're gonna lose a deal.
Yeah,
But that's, we try to review that with the LOA at the LOA level, but you guys wanna know, by the point of that, we just don't want it to be a shock to you and your borrower and stop your loan from moving forward, because the cash rate close was grossly underestimated. We don't want you to tell your borrower it's gonna be 5 when it's gonna be 10. Or hey, when you see that contract coming with no concessions, that you're gonna let them know, hey, look, we planned for you to have 3%, now you got 0, and you wanna keep it at 0, cause you went in low on your bid. But now I just wanna make sure you understand your cash flows can go up a little bit. And I wanna make sure you're prepared for that, do you have the money?
Hit
You
him
know,
with that
and
6%.
start making a plan for it. Anyway, it's a way for you to control the transaction and ensure your loans are still closing smoothly. If it's a shock to the borrower and they don't have the money and it takes them time to build it up, that's where your loans get drug out. And it's just knowing how to do that. Anyway, so you wanted to do your thing?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what part have you covered so that I can just go?
We didn't do anything on bank statements. We're just talking about, Mark, do you have, was this done?
that's it.
Okay. We're gonna do it on the, over there?
Yeah, I can just give them some examples.
He's gonna put it up on the projector. If you guys wanna take your seats at your regular chair,
Stop.
that's fine.